welcome to vlog 24 on the beautiful sunny very end of May allotment. Hi everyone. The last few weeks have been absolutely beautiful. We've had wall-to-wall sunshine, there's been no rain, so plenty of watering, but it really feels like summer is here and we're trying to make the most we possibly can of it. Unfortunately, it also is middle of exam season, so there is a lot of staying in the house involved, but everything is growing so well and there are things to pick and it's just gorgeous. The allotment feels like it's really coming together now. Lots of things are planted out, things are starting to flower, like this beautiful poached eggplant. Things are just bursting into life, really. There are so many flowers. These are some of the garden flowers as well. And from now on, really, things are just going to start to fill out. There's a few more bits to plant out. I'm going to be planting out some sweet corn and some onions in this video, but most things are in the ground and I'm just looking forward to seeing them all grow. Because the weather has been so dry, we've had at least 2 weeks with no rain at all, which is very, very unusual for this part of the country. Watering has been very high on the list and I've spent many hours now watering the allotment and watering the garden at home. And of course at this time of year, all the little seedlings have gone out and they just won't cope without being watered quite regularly. Some of the more established plants will cope much better for a while and I'm trying to just water them like really well once a week. Some of the fruit bushes and things like that will be perfectly happy with that and would even go a little bit longer. But it's those newly planted seedlings that really need a lot more watering than that. At home we have the luxury of a hose pipe, but on the allotment we only have a pump tap. Now I know some allotments have no running water at all, so we are very lucky to have this, especially now that our water butts have definitely run out. But it does take quite a long time, one can at a time. Luckily some of my children have come to help me on this occasion. And my son decided it would be quite a good idea to attempt to hold a hose to the tap to make things a little bit quicker. As you can see, it had mixed results, but I think we'll be using the watering cans. Earlier this spring I sowed some cucumbers and all of them dampened off. None of them were successful. So I did a second sowing and those are tiny little plants now, which are going to be ready to plant out in the next couple of weeks. So they're going to be living in the polytunnel and I'm just using some manure to fill up these kind of tubes. And hopefully I'm going to be able to plant my cucumbers into those. I will put a layer of compost at the top, but this way it just fills it up much cheaper and it gives the cucumbers something really rich to get the roots into. So yeah, I'm looking forward to having cucumbers. I'm a bit disappointed that we don't have some established plants already, But these things happen, and we'll just have cucumbers a little bit later this year. So in this little bed at the back here, it's made out of pallet collars that you can buy online. You can quite often pick them up on like makeup, Facebook Marketplace or eBay, places like that. But also sometimes builders merchants will have them and will let you have them really cheap or even free. I got these, I think they were about £3 or £4 each, so that was quite a bargain. And you just lay them one on top of the other as high as you want them to be and then fill them with compost. So quite early in the spring, I repositioned some corn salad. I replanted it into this bed and that's grown really well, and we've taken lots of salad cuttings from that. But now it's bolted and it's covered in flowers. And because I grow it in multiple places on the allotment, I don't need this one to self-seed. So I'm just going to pull all of this up and feed it to the chickens. And in its place, I am going to be putting my sweet corn. The flowers are really tasty too though, so it's worth harvesting a few of those if you have them and popping them on a salad or something. I did a really interesting talk. I thought it was very interesting. The people seem to enjoy it too. All about edible flowers and their benefits last week. So yeah, I might include that more in some of my future videos. But yes, flowers from edible plants are really, really good for you. So definitely include those in your diet if you can. Sweet corn isn't something that I usually have very much success with. But I'm giving it another go this year because the seeds came up really well and I had the seeds already, so I didn't want them to go to waste. But I don't want to give them a huge area just because I don't have a lot of confidence that they'll do brilliantly. So I'm putting them down here in this bed. It's quite a sheltered spot. It gets a lot of sun, but it's also quite dry because it's under a tree. So I am going to have to remember to water them down here. But I'm really hoping that they do okay. And because it's at the back of the plot, they're not going to shade anything out. And yeah, fingers crossed we get some sweet corn. As you've probably seen in other places, it's really important, if you are growing sweet corn, to plant it in a grid. I've sown these in some root trainers, which as you can see has made good healthy plants. But yeah, if you don't sow them in a grid, then they won't pollinate very well because these are pollinated by the wind rather than by bees. So by growing them in a grid, the idea is that the pollen will kind of blow between the plants. It's also quite a good idea once you see that the pollen is on the plants is to just give them a little shake, and that will allow the pollen to drop down into kind of the grooves of the leaves and will pollinate the plants, and that's where the sweet corn will grow. So that's always a good idea too. And here they are. So some people grow squash or beans with their sweet corn, and it's called the Three Sisters if you do all three. Some people just do the squash, some people just do the beans, and the beans will grow up and twine around the sweet corn as it grows, and the squash will shade the ground. So in theory it works really well. I haven't had a huge amount of success with that, a bit more with the squash than with the beans. So what I'm going to be doing is just popping these onions in just because I've got them spare and I don't want them to go to waste, and it seems like quite a good use of space. And then at the back along the trellis, I'm going to pop some beans and possibly a squash as well, but train that up over the trellis. So they're not really growing with the sweet corn as such, they're just growing next to them. I often leave the odd garlic bulb to stay in for more than 1 year, and this is what you end up with in year 2, which is kind of a clump of small garlic bulbs, which are really useful just as kind of green garlic, just to use them straight away. But what we're doing is we are filling up some watering cans and we're going to crush this garlic, just one of them, and soak it in the water and then water in the polytunnel, because due to all the dry weather, I've got quite a lot of ants. Now, ants are not a huge problem in the garden. They do aerate the soil and they can be predators for summer pests, but they do cause a bit of a problem if they are in pots or confined spaces, and plants won't really thrive in those conditions because they're disturbing the roots. So I'm trying to encourage them to go elsewhere. You know, if they want to go and live in the compost heap, that's absolutely fine. But I just would like them to leave the polytunnel. So I'm watering with garlic because they don't like that. And the idea being that they might move. Using garlic or other things like cinnamon is a really good idea as well, because it's completely natural. It isn't going to affect any wildlife or any other wildlife or pets. So yeah, it's super safe, super easy and super cheap, and hopefully super effective. The tree at the back of the plot has dropped about 10,000 fluffy catkins all over the place. They're everywhere. But it's really looking beautiful. So many flowers. The angelica is just giant, and I've been cooking with a few of the leaves. We found that the stems are a bit strong for us, but the leaves are really lovely in like curries and things. So I'm harvesting some of those. And I'll just take you around and pick a few more things. So we've got the broad beans here, they're not quite ready yet, but I am just pinching out the tops. Black fly can be a problem, and I think because it's been so dry, that may be a problem sooner rather than later. I also haven't seen very many ladybirds around yet this year, which is not a good sign because they obviously eat a lot of the aphids. So I'm pinching out the tops of my broad beans a bit early, and we're just going to eat those. They're really tasty and really nutritious, so a little bonus harvest there. Right, get off, you're going to break them. Why? You can hear it cracking. Don't break it. So I'm just having a little wander around. In here is a little bit of sprouting broccoli. Can you see all of those? Look at all of those tiny little white flies. They do just wash off, like that's not really a problem. They kind of fly off and then you can wash off the residue. But yeah, these brassicas need to come out of here now really, and I need to make room for other things. I think I'm going to grow my cucumbers this side, but I've also got some gherkins. I might put those in here too. Yeah, but I think these will be the plants anyway. Will be going to the chickens. They don't care if there's whitefly or not. It's just extra protein. So there's also still my lovely bunching onions, which are great for salad onions, like spring onion kind of things. And these just grow the whole year round, and you just keep picking off the leaves and they keep producing. So they're an amazing thing to have on the plot. And over here my tomatoes looking okay, and there's still loads of mint. And as I've said before, I just keep this under control by pulling it up and bringing a bit of root with it each time. And we just like this in yoghurt or in drinks. It makes a lovely tea. So yeah, can't have too much mint.
Loads of rhubarb crumble.
So look first, look underneath and feel it with your finger and find one that's really big. There, that one's pretty big. Yeah, that's a bit better. Let's go along the row and see if there's any better ones. Oh, I can spot a really big one over there. Can you get to it?
We're gonna take it out.
Go on then, you get the big one there.
Oh my word.
Yes.
It's massive.
Mahusimo.
These massive.
My rhubarb is looking really good, so I've decided now is the time to have kind of a big pick of the rhubarb. Now as I'm pulling it up, it's really important that you pull, don't cut, and I'm pulling it till I get that white heel, and that just means that you're less likely to have disease or rot set in, because you're kind of getting right down to the bottom of the plant. So yeah, I'm just pulling up all the decent sized stems and also some of the smaller ones that are kind of down near the bottom, just to clean up the plant a bit. And once I've taken this big cut of rhubarb, I might take another cut from one or two of the bigger clumps, but the others I'll just leave now until next year and just let them kind of die back over the year by themselves and feed the roots so we get a really good crop again next year.
Potatoes.
The only part of the rhubarb that you can eat is the stem. The leaves are poisonous, so I like to remove those at the allotment, but they make a really good mulch, especially at the moment with it being so dry. So I water the bed really, really well, and then once it's watered, I just lay the leaves down on the ground and they stop evaporation and they rot down really quickly and give the plants a bit of an extra boost. These rocket and radish flowers are looking and tasting amazing just now. I'm eating some of the flowers and then I'm also leaving some to form little seed pods, which are also really, really tasty. There are loads of different radishes that you can try growing and they grow really fast and are great little space save like fillers, and space savers as well because you can grow them between other crops. These are a white icicle type and they're really, really peppery, so a really nice one to grow. And of course some regular, I think these are just English breakfast or French breakfast, I'm not sure which, but yeah, these are really good to grow too.
I tied my daffodils up because they were sprawled out everywhere, and I tied them up so in like a month or two all of these will go and these old leaves will feed the bulbs, so then I get flowers next year.
So I had a packet of lettuce seeds from years ago and I wasn't expecting very good germination. So I plonked the whole packet into one pot and they all seem to have come up. So now I've got absolutely loads of lettuce seedlings that are massively overcrowded. So I'm just breaking them up and I'm going to try just sowing them in, well, not sowing them, planting them straight into the ground in between these tomatoes. We'll see how they get on. Obviously, I shouldn't have had such low expectations. And, I will plant some more into some plugs and see if they grow as well. To keep a flower display going right through the summer, it really helps to deadhead. So this geum, as you can see, is still flowering beautifully, but it has lots of faded flowers. And I'm just taking off all of those faded ones. They can go on the compost heap, and hopefully that will encourage the plant to send up a whole flush of new buds. You can do this for lots and lots of summer flowering plants. And as I said, it really extends how long it will flower for. I was really delighted to go and see my friend's new baby goats this week. They're absolutely beautiful, and me and my younger two children got to go and have cuddles, and they were just gorgeous. And I really wanted to bring them home, but I don't have room, so I'll just have to keep going and having more cuddles when I go and visit. What do you think,
You can tell it's Magma because he's got a white dot on his forehead. And he has straight fur. And then so cute. I thought they would be born like with fur like that, not just. Oh yeah.